today we will be talking about the foreign communities in Rome, and we specifically will be talking about the Egyptians.
When we talk about Egyptian, we mean the complex of the inhabitants of Roman Egypt, which is distinguished in Alexandrians and inhabitants of Greek cities and metropolitan indigenous people. This aroused a certain fear of in the Romans and the Westerners so much so that the Romans believed that the Egyptians were a population of crazy, mad, irascible, proud of insolence. It was very difficult to understand the juridical condition of Alexandrians and Egyptians, since no one explicitly indicates its free, libertine, or servile condition. Very famous is the gladiatorial school of Alexandria, where young Egyptians flocked to perform throughout the Roman West.
The Coptic Catholic community represents the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church of Egypt. In Egypt, Christians have only a few communities but are still very united. In Italy, the point of reference for the Coptic community is in Rome, in the Church of Sant'Andrea del Vignola, frequented by many families from all over the city. Mass is held there and meetings are held for children. Italy and Egypt have two very similar histories linked to antiquity. So, over the centuries, they have maintained close relations, and there have been many immigration from the respective capitals. Many information is given by an association, Incontro, that deals with foreign communities in Italy. Through the data, we know the Egyptian community is one of the largest in Italy, and a good percentage of it is Italian work.
The Egyptians believed the life would continue after life because they saw the human beings had this calamity common with the gods: body, soul, double soul, strength, and nature. During the fastings in the tomb reign of Ahari, the deceased had to face the ritual judgment of the soul of Mysticus Panta. Their heart was placed on a scale. It was the slice of the father of master placed on the other arm, and only God of unification left the deceased in the hands of foreigners. Otherwise, the earth was fed to a compromise.
Isiduscope was first introduced to Rome in the 1st century before Christ, with some resistance from the traditional aristocracy, aka the Senate. At Rome, there were two temples dedicated to Isis. One on Via Vicana, whilst the other is at Campo Marzio. Both of these temples were later destroyed, unfortunately, but we still have some remains from the Isidus cult in general. The main ones are a cat statues, now called Nagata, named after the statue there, and a big marble statue of a foot near Campo Marzio, which is said to be maybe a representation of the Isidus as a statue of Isidus.
Thank you very much. Bye. Bye, girls. Bye.
You have heard something about modern and ancient Egyptian community in Rome. Now I'm asking you, whose shoes can fit this foot? And have you ever seen a marble cat?
Good morning. We have worked on the history of the Jews in ancient Rome. The Jewish community in Rome was formed in the 2nd century BC. The Jews had privileges for their religion, but they suffered periods of persecutions and intolerance. They have always maintained a relationship with the motherland, and they tended to concentrate themselves in specific neighborhoods. The largest Jewish quarter was one of Trame. Their center of worship was the synagogue. We didn't know a lot about the profession that Jews held, but we know from the inscription that some of them worked glass and others were teachers.
Jews were the most ancient population of Europe, and they have settled in 4 areas: Trastevere, Campomarzio, Suburra, and Portocapena, and they were all used for commercial activities. So the most important source of information are probably the catacombs, and those were the places where the dead people were buried. And they were very different from the Christian catacombs because they hadn't places for direct contact with the deceased. And all the bodies were separate from each other, and there weren't much decorations. But Jewish symbols like menorah or the shofar were very recurring. Nowadays we still have 6 catacombs, 2 catacombs in Villa Torlonia, 1 in Villa Cimarra, 1 in Villa Andanini, 1 in Villa Polloni, and 1 in Monteverde.
Okay.
Catacombs are a place where the dead are buried. 2 very important catacombs are Monteverde's and Villa Torlonia's. Monteverde's has underground cemeteries and galleries that were discovered between 1902 and 1906. With the dead people that were buried in this catacomb, a new belief was discovered that was common to all of these dead people, and its symbol is the menorah, that is a 7-arm candlestick. Villa Torlonia's corresponds to 2 different catacombs connected to each other by galleries. The west side leads to the gardens, which are still used nowadays. The side is characterized by a series of niches interspersed with pillars.
Vigna Andanini's catacombs are in Rome, and they were discovered in 1859. They were built on a arms cubicle, so called because there are some jade palms represented at the 4 corners. In the center of the vault, there is a winged Nike, holds a palm branch in her left hand, and with the right hand she gives a laurel wreath to a young man. In Piazza Bologna, which is a Roman square, there is a very strong Jewish community. They help and support each other every day and also in the most difficult moments, but they also enjoy together happy moments, for example, bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah. And they are united by their wish to return to Israel, their promised land.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, girls. Bye. You have heard about modern and ancient Jewish community in Rome. So you know now that in Rome we have a light under our feet.
Today we will talk about African culture and migration in the ancient Rome. We know that half of Africans that we know thanks to inscriptions lived in Rome in the first 2 centuries of the Imperial Age. And this is also thanks to Cesare and Augusto that pushed to invade the African continent. Another flow of people arrived at Rome was with Settimio Severo. A common stereotype was that
word, and that they were inclined to scams. We know that a lot of Africans were slaves, and that they exported a lot of products to Italy, and that their black skin was interpreted like a bad presage.
In the past millennia, there have been many migrations from Africa to the Mediterranean countries, especially to Rome, where they began to integrate with the Italian community. They also learned different types of jobs like lawyers, governors, athletes, senators, charioteers, traders and merchants, and also ambassadors. They often learned those jobs and returned home to practice them. They began to trade with Rome, receiving money and political rewards. So Africans strongly contributed to the turning point in the work field, leading Rome to become the best place in Europe to offer job opportunities.
Ancient Africans in Rome worked as apprentices in various sectors. They were involved in the production of oil, exported thanks to the outbreak, on which the name of the family and the city of production were engraved. Furthermore, for the supply of Rome, the precursor and media was the main supplier of wax until the 2nd century. Finally, they also exported wine. In fact, starting from the 2nd century, the fruitful season for the large-scale production of African oil began common in this area of the Mediterranean and in the area favored by the incredible fertility of the soil, and for its trade facilitated by the vessels on very busy commercial routes and by the frequent combination with other products. The ancient Africans also carried out the work of tourists, learning the trade in Rome, and then eventually returning to practice it in their countries. From the picture provided by the literary and epigraphic searches, it can be deduced that in their slow and tiring penetration into Roman society, Africans remained in a first phase, tied to activities of modern social importance and humble in nature. In the 2nd century, the professions open to them are more qualities, and they meet poets, jurists, philosophers, and poets.
The right studies, we know that in the 2nd century of the Roman age, they were very impatient. We know this as the correction of expectation. Most of the immigrants chose Rome as their temporary or permanent residency. In the beginning, they did manual jobs. For example, they worked in the army. Over time, they began to do more prestigious jobs, such as lawyers, poets, or state officials. Always thanks to the literary searches, we obtain the general number of how many African senators were present.
Now you know, in ancient Rome, Africans had great skills, and you know that brown skin is not a bad omen.